The White House is set to announce a new office dedicated to gun violence prevention. And could there be a Hollywood ending? Talks continue between writers and studios as the strike approaches 5 months. The Morning Rundown starts now. This is Straight Arrow News, bringing you unbiased, straight facts. Today is Friday, September 22nd. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shannon Longworth. President Biden will announce today the creation of the first ever federal office of gun violence prevention. The White House says the office will be overseen by Vice President Kamala Harris and will aid states dealing with rising gun violence and help with the implementation of bipartisan gun legislation that was signed into law last year. The vice president released this statement ahead of the announcement, saying, quote, "The new Office of Gun Violence Prevention will play a critical role in implementing President Biden's and my efforts to reduce violence to the fullest extent under the law, while also engaging and encouraging congressional leaders, state and local leaders, and advocates to come together to build upon the meaningful progress that we have made to save lives. Our promise to the American people is this: we will not stop working to end the epidemic of gun violence in every community, because we do not have a moment nor a life to spare." President Biden called on Congress to act in 2022 after deadly attacks at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, and a supermarket in Buffalo, New York. Congress then passed the first gun legislation in nearly 3 decades that included expanding background checks on young gun buyers, keeping firearms from more domestic violence offenders, and providing millions of dollars for mental health services and school security initiatives. Still, according to the Gun Violence Archive, this year there have been more than 500 mass shootings in the U.S., where 4 or more people were either killed or injured. During Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's visit to the White House on Thursday, President Joe Biden made the announcement that the U.S. will provide an additional $325 million in aid to his country, as Ukraine remains embroiled in the war with Russia. Biden said the package focuses on bolstering Ukraine's air defense capabilities and includes more artillery, ammunition, and anti-tank weapons. The president is still asking Congress to approve an additional $24 billion in aid for Ukraine. Prior to the meeting with Biden, Zelensky spoke to a bipartisan group from the House and Senate, as Republican members of Congress are skeptical about providing more aid. On the same day as Zelensky's visit, 29 Republicans expressed their opposition to the U.S. providing additional funding in a letter to the Biden administration. The investigation continues this morning into a deadly crash in New York State involving a charter bus carrying members of a high school marching band that drove off the highway and down a ravine. There were 44 people on board. 2 adults died, and several others were critically injured in the crash in Orange County, according to state police. As for a cause, Governor Kathy Hochul says it appeared as though a faulty front tire contributed to the accident. Hochul spoke at a press conference about the students' resolve.
They were strong, and within 45 minutes, because of the efforts of an incredible amount of teamwork, these young people and the adults were brought to safety, many of them within a short time of the accident.
The students and faculty from Farmington High School on Long Island were on a trip to a music camp in Pennsylvania. In what is being considered a positive sign, the Writers Guild of America and the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers, which represents Hollywood's major studios, will meet for a 3rd day of negotiations today as the writers' strike inches towards 5 months. The WGA walked out on May 2nd with issues of pay, sizing of writing staff, and the use of artificial intelligence in writing scripts, keeping the 2 sides apart. Talks resumed on September 20th after nearly a month of silence. Top entertainment CEOs have joined the bargaining conversation, including Disney's Bob Iger and Netflix's Ted Sarandos. According to a new Associated Press poll, a majority of adults in America, 55%, sympathize with the striking writers, as well as the actors who also remain on the picket lines. Only 3% support the studios. Half of Americans approve of writers and actors striking, though most surveyed said they would not consider boycotting TV shows or canceling their streaming services. Microsoft has cleared another hurdle as it looks to buy the video game company Activision Blizzard. This morning, officials with Britain's Competition and Markets Authority signaled it will move towards approving the deal after Microsoft made some changes to address the group's concerns, namely agreeing not to purchase Activision's cloud gaming division. Those rights would now be sold to Ubisoft. The UK regulator said the restructuring, quote, opens the door to the deal being cleared. Its final decision, the last needed to make Microsoft's acquisition official, is expected in mid-October. The deal was first announced in January 2022, but has faced pushback by antitrust advocates around the world. In July, a U.S. federal judge ruled against the Federal Trade Commission's opposition to the deal. The European Union also agreed to the deal in May. Finally, this morning, there are fewer empty nesters these days as the number of young adults living with their parents is as high as it was just after the Great Depression. A Harris poll for Bloomberg News shows 45% of Americans between the ages of 18 and 29 are living with family, the highest figure since the 1940s. The top reason given by today's young adults was money. 41% of respondents said they're living in their current environments to save up. 30% said they just can't afford to live on their own. Another common response, 30% of people said they live at home to take care of family members. Other reasons included contributing to family finances, concerns regarding COVID, setting money aside for down payments, and paying off debt. While quite a few people are living with family, even more agree there shouldn't be any judgment for it. 90% of the more than 4,000 respondents said folks shouldn't face judgment for moving home. These are your top stories for this Friday. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to our Morning Rundown podcast and read about these stories at our website, san.com. We'll see you back here on Monday. Have a great weekend.